I'm expecting that the case study data that will arise from that project will be astounding. As people in the energy field, we should focus on equity, and we should focus on communities and the energy that is used and the types of energy that is deployed in vulnerable communities especially. So the Temple Project will be one that will hopefully catch on across the nation, and it will truly be an inspiration. Philadelphia is a dynamic city with great people, hardworking people who deserve to have these innovative installations in their community and not have to read about them being in other cities. So I am looking forward to that project.
Hey, Bruce.
What, Jeannie?
Guess who our guest is today?
Who's our guest?
Our Denise Everson. Good morning, our Denise.
Good morning. So great to be here.
I'm so excited to learn about you and your work at Thinkbox. What do you have going on there these days?
We actually have a few projects in our pipeline that I am extremely excited about. One being a project in Philadelphia that is going to be strongly supported by the Well Building Institute. And we all know from having years of working with U.S. Green Building Council that the Well Building Institute is a welcome addition to our ecosystem. So this particular project has brought me great joy because I'm thinking about the impact that it'll have in the Philadelphia community. This particular project is located close to Temple University, and it will be energy independent. It will assist in the future wellness, and it will make a really big impact in that particular community. So I am so excited about that particular project. The second project that we're working on, we're working with Virginia to help them with some projects they have in their pipeline regarding youth and those who were formerly incarcerated as they re-enter society. So we have a lot of cool social projects going on, which is the part of the business that I manage and lead. So we tend often to develop programming for state, local governments, entities, agencies, organizations, and those organizations then sometimes allow us to implement or roll out the program, or they sometimes use our strategies to deploy their own programming with a spin. I'm a big proponent of sustainability as a lead accredited professional, and energy independence, energy equity, equity in energy. So I tend to bring some of those science, technology, engineering, arts, and math components to any program that we employ. So not so much directly working with youth in the Virginia context, but I did get to work with a group of amazing young people in the DC community a few weeks ago, actually.
What are you doing in DC?
So the DC Housing Authority is one of our clients and partners. They launched last year a Youth Ambassadors Program. And the Youth Ambassadors Program is a cohort of 11 young people who come from all throughout the District of Columbia who are participating in this cohort through the DC Housing Authority. I was privileged a couple Saturdays ago to do a presentation for one of their sessions. And I met with the youth via Zoom, which is our new go-to these days. And we discussed various career opportunities within the STEAM and STEM professions. So one profession that no one on the call seemed to know about, and I am extremely lucky to know about because one of my very close friends is an actuary, is actuary science. So we talked a bit about actuary science, and it was a very fun Saturday session. I put two careers on the screen and they got to guess which one they thought earned the most. And in every case, they were incorrect. So I got to expose them to some different career opportunities like hospital administration as opposed to being a doctor or a nurse, different types of sciences, being an art teacher, for example. So various career disciplines that are often not talked about, but much needed.
It seems like in your work, one of the themes or one of the roles you play is kind of central in terms of bringing together community benefits and jobs for people in the communities, along with the kind of technology and building and ideas about long-term sustainability and, climate health for the planet. It's pretty great.
I think you hit the nail on the head. So Thinkbox is an energy services company, and they have been around for a little over 25 years. We go into large and medium sized properties throughout the nation. Actually, we work all over, and we repair and we fix their systems. So improving their boilers and chillers, in some cases installing geothermal and installing solar. Our hands are in a lot of different energy related projects. But one thing that I think that sets Thinkbox apart, which drew me to them as a company, as a movement, although they're called Thinkbox, they think outside of the box. Their innovation has always been a driving force of the company's success. They've helped write policy that the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has utilized. They've helped develop policies that the Department of Energy has used and implemented. So they have been on the bleeding edge for decades now and leading in the environmental social governance field. So we hear a lot about ESG and how environmental social governance is emerging and in some cases has emerged. With Thinkbox, we've been doing environmental social governance for a while now, and our community impact is very much ingrained in who we are as people. We volunteer outside of work. We volunteer within work. We help communities because we believe that communities are essential and critical to the success of any city and town and district.
That encompasses so much. Can you go back a little bit and say, what does actuary science have to do with sustainability?
The way that I tend to introduce sustainability, I put sustainability into science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. So there are careers that are focused, that are STEAM and STEM careers that promote sustainability. Actuary science is one that I tend to throw in because not a lot of people, young people, know that they could be actuaries. And actuaries handle insurance and risk. They manage risk. So actuary science is important in managing climate risk, managing building risk. So they're one of those professions that play a large role in the background. They are not often seen, but they are critical to our work.
If people want to learn more about what you and your organization have been doing or what your projects that you're going to be doing, where would you point them to look to find out more?
We have a dynamic website, Thinkbox Group /SCP. So the Thinkbox website is very dynamic and it encompasses a lot of what we do, not all, but most of what we do. And the SCP is the Sustainable Communities Project. I mentioned a bit earlier about how we've had our hands in environmental social governance for a while. The Sustainable Communities Project is our version of the ESG system. We developed it in 2012 with the DC Housing Authority and with the George Washington University. We have since worked with the Global Good Fund, which they are a global social impact investment organization. So the Sustainable Communities Project focuses on entrepreneurship, wellness, creating realistic jobs, and STEAM education. I've talked a little bit about the STEAM education part, but we have those 4 big pillars that we tend to leverage when we go into these communities and install solar or redo boilers or make the buildings and systems more efficient. We take those savings that are generated by our improvements and we redirect some of those savings into the communities that are impacted. and in the residents who live in the buildings that we work on. So that is primarily how the Sustainable Communities Project is funded, through savings. And we have generous donors from all over to help our work. But it is important work and someone has to do it. And I'm so happy that that someone is me.
That's awesome. Getting those benefits back to the community is a primary goal of my work. The last question I have for right now is, you mentioned some buildings right near Temple University, and I'm curious, do you know what types of assets might get installed there, or like what's happening at those buildings?
So the construction project will include housing and community amenities that will be open. That local community is going to be walkable, easily accessible neighborhood. It's also going to have some electric vehicle charging stations. So as we get to the point where Americans adopt electric vehicles more and more, and we move from dependent upon fossil fuels to more dependent upon clean energy and technology in particular, that particular development near Temple will offer great deal of community benefit, because community will be able to come there to learn about the systems and the innovation within that complex. They will be able to learn about perhaps the health benefits of living in a clean energy world, because the Well Building Institute is involved and they are partners on that particular project. So it is going to perhaps be a model community for other jurisdictions across the country. So it is in the early stages of development now, but I am expecting to hear several news stories. I'm expecting that the case study data that will arise from that project will be astounding. As people in the energy field, we should focus on equity, and we should focus on communities and the energy that is used and the types of energy that is deployed in vulnerable communities especially. So the Temple Project will be one that will hopefully catch on across the nation, and it will truly be an inspiration. Philadelphia is a dynamic city with great people, hardworking people who deserve to have these innovative installations in their community and not have to read about them being in other cities. So I am looking forward to that project. There's a lot of things that are worrying us as we sleep at night, but there are also a lot of things that bring us great joy as we arise each morning. And I'm thinking specifically about all of the federal and state and local initiatives around climate that are emerging.
I'm so excited to learn more and to hopefully learn from your models of work that we can apply elsewhere.
Thanks for being on the show.
I am so very happy to even have had the opportunity to be invited. Anytime I get to talk about Thinkbox and the great work that we're doing, anytime I get to talk about the Sustainable Communities Project and pump up the Global Good Fund and highlight the great work that the George Washington University is doing and the extraordinary impact that the DC Housing Authority is having on the District of Columbia residents, I always will take that opportunity to do so. I also am encouraging some of your listeners to go and Google actuary science today and see what they do and how you can encourage some young people to go into that field, because we need a pipeline of leaders, young leaders in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, because they all impact the future of sustainability. By the way, you can follow us. You can find us at Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Thinkbox Group. Follow us, subscribe, click, all of those things.
It's so great to meet you. Thank you so much, and we'll definitely stay in touch.